Kevin McGuff up to the podium. And Maria Slovakovsky. Coach, thanks so much.
Thank you. Good morning. Good to see everybody. Sorry I didn't dress as well as Ryan did. I'm in season, though, so cut me some slack.
Guys, I'll just open up the floor. Go ahead, Bill.
Kevin, how are you?
Hi, Bill.
Just, softball here. I mean, what's it like to have the buzz around your program and women's college basketball in general, Caitlin Clark, and all the attention, the ratings that your sport's getting, and obviously for you guys to be at the forefront of it?
Yeah, no, it's a great time to be a part of the sport. It's grown, I think, going all the way back to last year when you look at the ratings in the NCAA tournament and that type of stuff, and it's carried over to this year. The attendance is way up nationally. We've certainly done really well, and I'm appreciative of the support we've gotten from this community. And I'm happy for our players because they should be playing in environments like we're playing, and they should get the coverage that they're getting.
Braden Moles, far left, Coach Braden Moles, Buckeye Sports Bowl.
Kevin, you always talk a lot about wanting to play your best basketball when it comes to March and kind of the end of the regular season. Where do you feel that team is kind of on that trajectory, and what areas are you still kind of looking to take a leap in?
Yeah, I think we've gotten a lot better. I don't think a month ago we would have beaten Iowa or Indiana, but we've gotten significantly better. Specifically, our defense and our rebounding has gotten better, but probably more importantly from a personnel standpoint, Cody McMahon wasn't playing real well before the break, and she's come back after Christmas and played great, and I think she's given us a big lift. I also think Celeste Taylor is settling in a little bit more. And so as much as kind of schematically we've gotten better, I just think personnel-wise we've got some people playing better.
I guess the team has gotten a little bit of a reputation over the last couple of years playing in some pretty close games. Do you feel this team, specifically with the leaps you guys have taken on the defensive end, has become maybe a little better at being able to close out games?
Yeah, I think we've gotten better defensively. We've been able to get stops. Probably more importantly, though, we've got veteran players, and I can put the ball in J.C. Sheldon's hands, and something good is probably going to happen. She's going to get a shot for herself or create an opportunity for someone else.
Whitney Hardy, WCMA.
Hey, Kevin. Minnesota tomorrow night. They've obviously been kind of struggling lately, but what do they still do well that you need to be aware of?
Yeah, they've got a new coach who's really infused a great culture. They're significantly better than they've been in recent years. They play really well at home, and they've got a great fan base. They defend. They're very disciplined on the defensive end. They're going to really try to force us to score from the perimeter where we've struggled at times. And then they run a great motion offense that if we're not on point defensively, they're hard to stop.
Talk so much about how Cody has changed the game since the start of the first of the year. Obviously, scoring is what she's going to do. How have you really seen her taken a pride in the rebounding? And have you seen that kind of fuel her a little bit more to kind of create the scoring then on the other end?
Yeah, no, her rebounding's been really instrumental. She's really made that a point of emphasis for herself, and she's been taking a lot of pride in it. As a matter of fact, she's trying to stay in games longer to get double-doubles, which I guess is good. But as I told her, we can't have her out there if we're winning and get her hurt and stuff like that. But she's taken a lot of pride just in general in her game, but specifically in her rebounding.
Telling me Cody's being extremely competitive about something?
Yeah, she's being a pain in the ass.
Right in front of her, Thomas Costello, Land Grant, Holy Land.
Thanks for the time, Coach. Ohio State and Iowa, you have a pretty similar schedule from here on out, and you're both tied for first place in the conference. Is it hard to keep the players in check knowing that, Iowa's doing just as well as you are, and you have that potential championship game?
Yeah, we really try to keep it really simple and, focus on today's practice and our next opponent, which is Minnesota. And, I really rely on, it's my job in practice to make sure we're focused on that, but really rely on our upperclassmen, our seniors in the locker room, on the bus, in the hotel, that they make sure that they help me keep everybody focused on the right things.
Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
You sort of just touched on this. You strive as a player, a coach, for success. When you get there, though, and you're having success, but you're not at the end, right? How do you, like you said, keep the focus, but also enjoy kind of that moment, right? Like the wins against Iowa and Indiana are big. How do you balance those two things while keeping a bigger goal at the end?
Yeah, it's interesting because as I told the team as the season has kind of evolved, we took tough losses early, and we had to learn to bounce back after a loss, which is sometimes easier than bouncing back after a big win. So after any time it's a significant win, Iowa, Indiana. We talk about, hey, celebrate today, enjoy it, and then tomorrow we're moving on to the next game. And like I said, I have to make sure that they have the right focus and energy in practice. And sometimes you can sense when they're a little lackadaisical and still kind of feeling themselves after a big win, and we got to kind of reel them back in.
Do you feel like, in general, this group has the makeup to do those things, even when you have to reel them back in?
Yeah, I think they do, but they're still young people, and they're just people in general. Even as coaches, I got to make sure that I keep myself focused on the right things, and but they're young people, and it's my job to help them focus on the right things, and they're receptive to that. They understand it, but it's not always easy to practice that. So that's where, as coaches, we have to really help them.
G Law, Lantern.
Hey Kevin, Cody and JC talk a lot about just playing really well all around together. And you have 5 out of 7 of your last games are on the road. How are you preparing them, or how are you preparing the team to go on the road?
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. I mean, the conference is as good as it's ever been, and everybody's drawing really well. The environments are really hard, and you could look at our most recent road games at Illinois and at Purdue. Were both really difficult contests, and we had to kind of grind out wins. So we're going to have to do that, tomorrow night and Sunday and in the future if we want to, stay in the race for a championship.
And Taylor Theory, she's been really, really good for you guys. Last season and this season, of course, on both ends of the floor. What have you seen from her and her development, especially on the offensive end?
Yeah, she's a great player. I think sometimes gets overlooked with some of the things that JC and Cody do, but she's really consistent, number one. She's very disciplined about how she goes about things, and she really impacts us on both ends of the floor. And we're really continuing to push her to be more assertive because I still think there's a higher ceiling for her.
And final question for you here. Going into Minnesota tomorrow, they have a really good guard depth with Mara Braun there and Amaya Battle. Coming off a game where Sarah Scalia just put up 25 points, how are your guards preparing, or how's your defense preparing to stop someone like Braun and Battle?
Yeah, Braun's been slowed by injury lately, but so I don't think she'll play tomorrow. But Battle's been really good. They've kind of put more of the emphasis on her in terms of scoring, so she'll be a huge matchup for us, and we got to make sure that we can keep her in front and make her score over us. But she's a terrific player.
Over to the right, Cameron Teague Robinson, the Athletic.
Kevin, I think it's easy when you make an Elite Eight run and then you add pieces like Celeste and the transfer portal for people to just say, okay, it should click. Like it should, right away, you should be a top 5 team again. You guys had some bumps and bruises. You got Madison Green back, that obviously helped. But as you saw all these pieces come together, what was that like to go through that? What's it been like to see everything kind of click now?
Yeah, it's a lot harder than, to your point, I think you're right, it's harder than people think to add a player and think it's going to work right away. And Celeste is a great player. She works incredibly hard. She's very talented. But I think we're now just starting to see her find a level of comfort that she can be the player she's capable of being. And I still think there's a higher ceiling for her. I think that's going to be, part of us reaching our potential is her continuing to evolve. You mentioned Madison. Madison is starting to get more comfortable. I think if she can be at a higher level a month from now, then we're a better team. So I think those are 2 really important things to watch as we kind of head towards March.
As a coach who has such high expectations of this group, when you're trying to put the pieces together, you're trying to get people healthy to come back during the season, and you drop at USC, you drop at UCLA, how do you personally handle those as you're trying to chug along day after day but have such high expectations?
Yeah, we just keep pushing them in practice, and keep really just kind of pouring into the individuals. I've taken more time lately to watch film with Celeste, and I should have done it earlier in the season just to make sure she understands what kind of my expectations for her are and where I think she's doing well and where I think she needs to do things a little differently. And she loves it. She loves to be coached, and I probably should have coached her harder early on, but I'm coaching her a little harder now, and I think she's really responding to that. And so, like I said, hopefully she can even be at a higher level than she is now, because I think she's a great player, and I'm really hopeful Madison can be as well.
Right next door, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Kevin, a lot of people point to Dawn down in South Carolina and Caitlin at Iowa, and then what they're doing down at LSU, and think about how women's basketball is growing nationally. But for you to take on this challenge and to help the game grow locally in Columbus, how have you seen that kind of take off recently? And what does it mean to you to, obviously the players are spearheading that, what does it mean to you to see what what this game has become here in Columbus?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm just really appreciative of the community and how they've gotten behind us. Our attendance is way up. Last year it was way up. It's way up this year. And I don't see it going any other direction, assuming we continue to win and put a good product on the court. And it's great. It's partly reflective of what the national trend is. And South Carolina, LSU, they've done amazing jobs. But I think it's also, this is a community that has historically supported women's sports in general, and we're doing it with women's basketball right now.
Over to the right, Clay Hall, WSYX.
Ohio State's a national brand, but the last few years you've put together, does that expand your recruiting footprint in any way, or does it cause you to, hey, we can go get this player?
Yeah, this year, it was interesting, we were just talking about this out in the hallway, this was the first year we kind of broke through and got some kids from the South. And we've struggled to get players from the South, and we've tried because there's a lot of talent down there, and we just haven't been able to get them. But I think with success and exposure and a kind of player-friendly style of play has really helped us kind of break into new markets. And I think now with the expansion, and that'll probably help as well, and maybe on the West Coast.
Tim May podcast, and Letterman Roll.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. Kevin, when you watch your team, though, especially at the end of the Iowa game, at the end of Indiana, I mean, the way y'all finished, you know what I mean? You spoke a little bit of this earlier, but what does it just tell you about your team? What did you see that you really liked when they were, in essence, not backed into a corner, but, you had to finish this thing off and stuff? What just stood out?
Sometimes when, like, we got down 12 against Iowa, and sometimes as I'm thinking before I go into the huddle to talk to the team, like, hey, I've got to say something to kind of inspire some confidence here. In that particular day, when I went to go in the huddle, they were like really aggressively talking to each other, like, we got this. And so I didn't have to say anything other than some X's and O's things. And so I just think it speaks to the experience of our team, the amount of games that they've been in together, our upperclassmen, and just their confidence in each other. Just that, we don't ever feel out of a game. But I think that was the greatest point. It's like I was nervous about that moment with the team. And when I went in the huddle, I wasn't nervous because they weren't. And they were very still confident that we could win the game.
Yeah, and who's the real ringleader in that regard? I mean,
JC sets the tone always with her work ethic and sometimes her words. And that day she was very vocal. Ricky Harris jumps in there all the time, and she's got a big voice in those moments. And even Celeste is starting to find her voice a little bit more because if you look at her track record before she got here, she's played in a lot of really big games.
Yeah. But there's a poise there, is what I've noticed more than anything else in those moments, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't almost coach that, right? It kind of has to happen.
Right. I think it's just evolved over years and us having a veteran experienced group, especially with our guards. And like I told you earlier, like I'm always thinking late in games, like, hey, let me get the ball in JC's hands in a variety of ways. And I think something good is usually going to happen.
Right behind him, Doug Maurice, Kings of the North.
Kevin, with everything that's changed in college sports these days, just from a roster building standpoint, where do you feel like you guys are in terms of being able to recruit in high school, being able to retain the players on your team, being able to get people in as transfers? Just what have you learned, and how do you think this program has executed it?
Yeah, it's really, I think, a couple things. One, in this, like for me personally and our staff, when I first got here, I thought we were really good at recruiting talented players. I'm not sure we put together great teams. I think now we've done better in really making sure we put together great teams. For example, J.C. Sheldon was the 60th ranked player in the country or something. I wouldn't trade her for anybody. But then, like in this age, like I still would hope that our program can be about recruiting high school players and developing them within our system, like the upperclassmen we have right now, and then adding out of the transfer portal, filling in needs like we did this year with Celeste. We lost Taylor Mikesell. I didn't see a replacement on the roster. Brought her in. We brought in Tyre Parks because we needed a little more depth around the basket. So, like I said, I hope that we continue to recruit high school kids and develop them because that's what's working for us right now. And then add out of the portal, which we always will, just kind of to fill in needs.
You've been here a decade now. Like, what did you think Ohio State women's basketball could be when took this job, and what do you think of where the program is right now?
I mean, I think we're in a really good place right now. I was hopeful we would get to this point a little quicker. And like I said, in some ways we did. We had success early on, but then we had a lull there where we didn't sustain it. And like I said, I think it goes back to we've recruited the right kids and put together a team instead of a collection of players, and because that kind of fell apart on us there for a year or two. And I think we're just doing a better job identifying people that fit our program, our culture, our university, and it's just seems to be working for us right now.
That lull, like it was like a weird 3-year stretch right, with the COVID stuff
Yeah.
and the ban, and
Yeah.
it's like, did you know like we'll get this back, or did you wonder like what when you're after you're competing at the top of the conference, you're making Sweet 16s when you first get here, what was that period like, and did you know you'd pull out of it?
Well, when everybody stayed, when they could have left, I felt really confident, especially with the core group of JC and Madison and those kids. I felt really confident that as we move forward with putting people around them, that we could have a really successful program.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, I want to ask you about court storming. That's becoming a topic, and,
Yeah.
and obviously what happened with Caitlin. Have you guys had discussions?
What happened? What are you talking about?
Have you had discussions about what you can do to prevent something like that from happening? Maybe hold let the opposing team get off the court, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, once again, it was very unfortunate. I mean, I wouldn't want to see that happen with any player, let alone Caitlin, who just had a spectacular game in our building, in a great performance. But yeah, they've sent out some guidelines, and I read it. I don't know that I got into all the specifics, but I think the Big Ten is trying to give some additional guidelines to just ensure that something like that doesn't happen again.
Operations folks have all the specifics. Steve Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Coach. I want to ask you about Rebecca. It feels like in the games when she's involved and energetic and hitting shots, it just gives you guys so much more of a chance to be successful. She's had some games where maybe she's laid back and hasn't asserted herself as much defensively, rebounding, all these things. Is she kind of an X factor for you guys that when, I know just hitting threes is one thing, but there's so much more to play in the game. Just when you get that out of her, what does that difference mean for you?
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. And I think our most recent game against Indiana is a great example of Mackenzie Holmes is one of the best post players in the country and has historically given us fits. We've really struggled to have any success guarding her. And that was one of Rebecca's best defensive performances. Now, schematically, the guards help in crowding her and all that, but Rebecca fought every possession for 40 minutes and then also made some shots. So she was very impactful in that game. And I agree with you, we're at a higher level when she plays well. And I'm just really optimistic, though, because, last year she played great in the beginning and kind of faded at the end of the year. But, knock on wood, she's in a really good place now, so I think she's going to have a strong finish to the season.
Thomas Costello, Land Grant, Holy Land.
You talked about Celeste Taylor earlier, and you're coaching her differently now as the season goes on. Against Maryland, Iowa, Indiana, she's picking up fouls early, quickly. Is that something that you try to coach her differently, or you're okay with how she's playing, or the calls aren't going your way? What are you seeing that it's taking her out? Because then it impacts the defense whenever she's on the court.
Yeah, she's just a really aggressive player, so she's going to pick up some fouls. The ones I don't like, she got one, I forget what game it was in. It was like 80 feet from the basket. It was her second one early. Those are the ones she's got to throw away and not do. But she's going to get some because she plays just so hard and so aggressively, and she's fighting through screens and ball screens, and so sometimes she'll pick up fouls like that, which I'm okay with those. But it's just the ones that are like she missed a shot and she's mad, so she goes for a steal in the backcourt. She's got to take those away. But other than that, I'm fine with it.
Did we miss anyone? Anyone else? Marcus Hartman, Dayton Daily News.
How do you feel like you have personally kind of evolved as the coach here? I know when you got here it was like homecoming, kind of understands Ohio State and everything, and then you talk about you had to learn different ways to manage it. So how was that work for you personally?
Well, I think that, like I said, I've set a better tone of how we kind of build rosters and put together the team, and it kind of speaks to culture a little bit. I think our culture's in a great place, and mostly because we have wonderful kids that play well together and that type of stuff. And we want to continue to keep the focus on that. And not that I didn't understand that when I got the job. I just didn't emphasize it as much. And we were, you know, it's like when you get the Ohio State job, it's like, man, we can get involved with every 5-star kid in the country, but is that the right thing? Is that the right way to put together your roster? Not always. You got to have a certain level of talent for sure to compete at this level and be successful. But I just want to make sure. I think I've done it, like I said, evolved mostly just trying to put together a team that can play well together, that I want to coach and I can be successful with, and that they want to play well with each other. And like I said, we had great kids when I first got here. They just didn't always fit. And so that's probably the biggest evolution for me in our program.
Coach, we're gonna go back to G Law from the Lantern.
Sorry, this is the last one. I don't know if you saw against Indiana, but Taylor Maxwell was there. Did you get a chance to talk to her, or
Yeah. She comes to practice almost every day. She's here all the time, and great kid, and just had a great couple years here, and she's real comfortable coming back. And she just signed a training camp contract with the LA Sparks, so I'm super excited for her, and hopefully she can stick with them throughout the year.
All right, Coach, thank you very
Okay,
much.
thanks everybody.
Thank you.